Alrighty, in this video we're going to have a look at rounding some decimals to specific decimal places. I've got some steps here and I want you to focus on these before we look at the questions because these steps apply every single time. So step number one is to identify the decimal place you are rounding to. So if you haven't quite looked at place value yet, make sure you do that. There's plenty of videos online, maybe one by myself by the time this is out. But we need to identify place value first, or how many decimal places we're rounding to. Step two then is to look at the number after it. So the number to the right of it, or further down the decimal place chain. And then we ask ourselves, okay, if that number after it is less than 5, we're not going to round. We're just going to chop the number off at the right amount of decimal places. If, however, the number is 5 or bigger, we are going to round the number before up one place. So we're going to have a look at some examples here. So question 1, it says round 0.517 to 2 decimal places. This abbreviation here, DP, stands for decimal places. So we're going to apply our steps sequentially. Once you get good at this, you don't have to think about the steps. It'll just be ingrained in your knowledge. But for now, we're going to look at the steps. So step 1, identify the decimal place you are rounding to. I'm rounding to the second decimal place, so I'm going to count them. After the decimal, I have 1, 2. So this is the number right here that I'm going to be rounding to. Step number 2 though says look at the number after it. The number after this 1 is this 7. So I'm going to use a different color here, I might use green. I'm going to look at this number here and say, is it greater than 5? That's my question that I'm asking myself. Because step 3 says if it's less than 5, don't round. If it's 5 or bigger, round up. So that number 7 is 5 or bigger. So we're going to round up. But it's this 1, this pink 1 here that we're actually going to be rounding. So my answer is going to be 0.5. That hasn't changed. But this 1, because this 7 is 5 or bigger, it changes this 1 up one number to a 2. So we've rounded 0.517 to 0.52, and you'll notice that has 2 decimal places as requested by the question. Okay, question 2. Round 3.62 to 1 decimal place. Okay, so step 1, identify the decimal place that we're rounding to. So we're only rounding to 1, so after the decimal, we should have 1 number here. So we're going to be rounding to this 6. To figure out whether that stays as a 6 or goes up to a 7, we look at the number after it. So the number after it is this one here, which is a 2. And if it is less than 5, we don't round. That 2 is definitely less than 5, so we're not going to round at all. We're going to write, the answer is 3 point, and this 6, because that 2 is less than 5, we're not going to change it, 3.6. And that has now been rounded to 1 decimal place. And finally, long number here and a long question, but don't panic, it's the exact same strategy. Round 101.75641 to 3 decimal places. So, step 1, identify the decimal place that you're looking for. I'm looking for the 3rd. So after the decimal place, we have 1, 2, 3. So this little 6 here, that's the one I want to see if I'm rounding up or not at all. Look at the number after it, step 2. So this 4, I'm going to use that 4, and is it less than 5 or 5 or bigger? 4 is definitely less than 5, at least where I got taught mathematics. So that means we're not going to round at all. So we're going to write the answer is 101.75, and we had to decide whether this 6 stays as a 6 or goes to a 7, but because 4 is less than 5, the 6 stays. So we write it in. 101.756, that's 3 decimal places as requested in the question. Okay, so if you find it hard to remember these rules, it probably is just going to be a case of practicing a bunch and committing it sort of to your subconscious memory. But if it helps, make sure you write down these steps here. They work every single time, no matter how many decimal places you're rounding to, and I hope that helps you.